Good afternoon, Grace family. My name is Ben Hendricks. I'm the student pastor. I get to lead today's Grace, or Daily Grace, finally, and this is the one you've been waiting for. I get to sit down with the Jason McKnight. But before we get into all of that, let me give you a reminder that this Sunday we are back to meeting here in this room. I hope you're excited about it. I know we are, just as a staff, and the elders couldn't stop talking about it. We're just excited to see you guys.
We really are.
We really are. And so here's the thing you need to see, or just to remember, is you probably got in your email. You can see it on our website and then also on our Facebook page. We need you, if you're coming this Sunday, to sign up for a specific service. We have 3 services. What time is it? 8:30?
8:45.
8:45. Oh, man.
10 o'clock, 11:15.
Okay. So one more time.
8:45, 10 o'clock, 11:15. Sign up on the website.
Oh, man. Make sure you sign for those up so we know how many people are going to be in each one. Make sure we can really follow the rules and really just shepherd everybody well.
And if you sign up early, you can sit in the back row.
Oh, it's like the movie theater, right? You get to pick where your seats are going to be.
Yeah, right.
And you can enjoy the nice new recliners we have. Anyways, back to the actual content for the day. Maybe you're like me, and over the last really 3 months, it's crazy, it's been 3 months, you have found yourselves on social media, on the internet, or even in front of a newspaper, if you remember what those are. And maybe at a time you've kind of read some of the headlines, you've read some of the news, and you've kind of wondered what to believe, because there's so much information across the spectrum, whether it is from really the left or even the right, or the idea of people in the middle, or wherever.
Or you don't know where it's from.
Yeah, and there's just so much information out there, so many people whispering or often even yelling in your ear to do this, believe in this, don't do that. What do you believe? Where do you get for your information? Who do you trust? And so today, over the last couple of weeks, Jason and I have been talking about this, and I know I've really enjoyed what you've had to say. And so one of the things I've just loved is that you kind of have a framework for us to really work through all the news, really 5 progressive steps, right? Mm-hmm. So why don't we, over the next little bit, kind of work through those 5 steps, and then maybe you can have some information, and we'll grab bag of fun stuff at the end.
Well, let's do that. And, this is also, if you listened on Sunday, or we're, live streaming, the early part of the sermon, it was a lot about us, where we are, because the stakes are high, the path is unclear, there's so many words coming at us, and the fear is real. And we spent a little time there, because I've had a bunch of conversations, not with you only, but also others. How do we navigate this? So, let me offer a couple of things, and Ben, you're going to jump in and help me out here. If I mess it up, too bad. But here's there's a couple of key mileposts that you and I need to know or live into. And the first one is this: when we think of news, there's reporting and there's commentary. Those are 2 things that both come in the newspaper or both come in the show, like broadcast news, cable news, or whatever. There's reporting on events, and there's offering a commentary or an opinion about it. And so if you think about this, the news article might say something like this: there was a fire today at the abandoned warehouse. It affected 12 nearby homes. The warehouse is owned by Mr. Smith, who lives in Oregon. 5 facts. The commentary or the opinion might be something like this: the fire at the warehouse today shows why we need to have local ownership and change our bylaws, and so on and so forth, which may or may not be true, and it may or may not be wise, but it's commentary. It's not just what happened, but it's also what we should do or think or change about it. The whole reason I bring this up, reporting, commentary, that division, is this. Here it is. Television news, cable or broadcast, mixes those in, and you don't always know. When you have a newspaper, if anyone still does, there's an opinion page and an editorial page, so the op-ed page, but then everything else, ideally, is reporting of news. That's what's mixed on the television. When you're watching Fox News or MSNBC or CNN or the broadcast, those things are mixed together, and we need to remember that. It's helpful when they're separate. And in fact, the rule in the newspaper industry used to be, and maybe it still is, I'm not in it, but this is the tradition, is that the reporters and the editorial board, they just don't mix. They're in separate silos because these folks have to do their job without sort of these folks pushing them.
And I think this gets really dangerous because I'll be honest, like just a kind of across the board, and no matter where we are in news, like they're really good at this.
Yeah.
Of just taking really the cold hard facts and really just helping you know what to do with them.
Right, and that's the opinion side.
And that's the opinion side, because at some point, sometimes I don't always know what to do with what happens, and we want to apply it and go, okay, what do we do? And sometimes I think most of the times not to be intentionally divisive or intentionally rude, but they do kind of help you with that extra mile, the extra couple of steps to know what to do with what's going on.
Right, and to know what to do from their perspective. So that leads us to the second thing, is that nobody reports without bias. And this isn't good, this isn't bad, it just is. There's just no such thing as being 100% free from a starting vantage point. There is no such thing as total objectivity. Again, this isn't a fault, it's just simply a fact. So it doesn't mean you can't be fair. It just means you have somewhere that you're starting from. It has helped me actually to find out what those starting points are for the different news sources that I like or that I may interact with, because then I know how to grid what they're saying. If somebody says we're totally objective, then I get very concerned to understand from them, because that's not in tune with the way the world is. If somebody turns around and says we're a left-leaning news organization because we believe collective solutions are more equitable, well, then I can understand where they're coming from and I can grid what they say. Or we're a right-leaning or a conservative news organization because I think individuals should have more freedom to make their decisions. Well, then I can grid their stuff there. But if someone comes and says CNN and Fox are both out to lunch, we've got it right, we're the objective ones, I honestly don't listen that much because it's a little dubious.
Yeah,
you just can't kind of have it. So then if you know that people are going to report with, if there's no way to report without some bias, even though you can be and should be fair, and if there's reporting and commentary, then here's what I think. The third thing you and I need to do as thinking Christians is we need to know our own preferred home. Where are you most at home? In other words, what do you believe in on this political spectrum? So we're not talking Jesus and the gospel, although that informs things, but the great beauty of an infinite Savior is it's going to inform a lot of people in different ways, and that's another discussion.
And I love that, like so often we can, like, it's okay to land in different places.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
If we don't want to just simply look to one side and just go like, man, like they're the ones who've got it completely wrong.
Right.
Because it's good to know like that we do often, since we all have our little own biases. Like, I mean, so your second point. We kind of land in preferred places to live. Like if you like the beach more, you're going to land there. If you like the mountains more, it's where you go. Like you have your preferred place, and I think it lands politically and news
so to
stories.
know your home politically is a good thing to know, and politically because I'm not using that in terms of merely who you're voting for. I'm using that in terms of our views, our lenses through which we're seeing the body politic, through which we're seeing how to solve problems in front of us, which those are political answers. And so the Christian left, the Christian right, I mean, these are, and when you know where your home is, or the Christian center, of course I'm the center. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, who knows where I am, But I tell you, when I moved here as a Canadian, it was so funny. In Canada, I tend very conservative relative to the culture. Here, people are suspicious of me because I had socialized medicine, and they thought, well, who is this guy? Because I didn't, So I tend to be on the right, but that doesn't mean the friends I have on the left, I'm learning from them. I just know the preferred home. I tend to think the free market has given more prosperity and opportunity to more people than any other system in history, but that doesn't mean it's perfect.
Well, I think that would be my question is like if, I think probably a lot of people are kind of thinking the same question I am, which is, okay, if we do have our own biases and we do need to know our preferred home because we are going to gravitate towards like a specific place, like how do we help out of that? How do we get
Right.
kind of move forward going like, you don't want to only see the world from your own perspective.
Right.
How do you start really taking steps out of that?
The first thing I think is, to take a step out of only seeing the world from your perspective, which we don't want to do, is number one is acknowledge the deficiencies in your own viewpoint. We're not in heaven yet. Whether you're right, whether you're left, or some range on there is no perfect and fail-safe way to view the world. We are fallible, and even if there's, even as we try to solve problems from this line or that line, the way our solutions are going to work are never going to be 100% infallible. And so, as believers thinking carefully in the world that is, it's good to admit, you know what, we don't have it all together. There may be a deficiency in my stance or in the way I'm thinking about this. The Christian right, the Christian left, if you want to say it this way, they're both people trying to please the Lord, engaging the world in front of them along different paths. And you and I can argue all day in a good way, in a legal way of an argument, making an argument about which way is better, and that's great. And there's shades within each. I remember reading in the old Peanuts Peanuts cartoon, Snoopy and Charlie Brown. I remember Snoopy's writing a book on top of his doghouse, and he says, "Oh, and I'm writing a book on theology, and I've come up with the best title." And I'm a kid. But has it ever occurred to you that you might be wrong?
Oh, man.
And of course, that's the joke on theologians because they're all so dogmatic. Well, I think, 40 years ago, Charles Schultz could write that. Today, it's politics. Everyone is so dogmatic on what they think and not giving any credence to anyone else. Has it ever occurred to you you might be wrong? Or some aspect of what you're thinking might be wrong? I think that humility, as opposed to the hubris. Oh, I've got the facts and I can report without bias. That's hubristic. But the humility to say, maybe I got something wrong here.
Yeah.
Which that leads then to, I think, the fifth thing of how to help us think carefully. We know there's reporting and we know there's commentary. And so that's the first thing. And so nobody can do it without bias. So as you're engaging the news, you're thinking those things, but then you're also remembering what your own home is, where you feel convictionally or from your thought process. Am I more on the liberal side? Am I more on the conservative side? What is, where do I think the best solutions are? And then recognizing your own deficiencies. The last thing is, I think you go ahead and purposely listen to viewpoints that differ from your own. Once you know your natural home or where you think you are, keep listening to folks who have careful viewpoints that you don't share. One of the biggest dangers is tribalism, where I only believe my own tribe and everyone else has fake news. That's bad. It's just not true. Our worldview shrinks when we only listen to the people we agree with. And paradoxically, David French suggests this, our views get more extreme when we only listen to people we agree with. And so I would challenge you, if you're on the right, listen some each week to someone on the left. If you're on the left, listen some each week to someone on the right. To me, this is my right hand and left hand. I know it's the reverse for you watching. But I would challenge you. I tend on the right, so I listen to NPR a good bit through the week and through the month, and I make sure I keep in touch with what's going on there because I want to hear how they're gridding the world, and maybe I've missed something in where my natural home is. So I think that's a really important. In fact, Steve Irvin's one that reminded me or helped me see the David French article about tribalism, where our worldview shrinks and our views get more extreme. We don't want that as believers.
No.
We want to be extreme about Jesus. We want to hold the rest carefully and a little bit loosely.
I think it's also good, just like it's a great way, a good help to also represent other people well.
Absolutely.
Because
Tim Keller does that so well.
Absolutely. Just kind of the classic argument, it's easy to straw man the other side, really, which is where you kind of make them into something that they're actually not arguing and they're actually not doing or saying. And when all we do is just take in the resources that we like that are on our side, it's easy to like, oh, just dismiss their argument, dismiss their side, and then just dismiss their view and claim it as something else.
And I think it's easy to strawman people on television because you're going for the ratings and you want the pow drama of a gotcha interview or whatever. But I do think written or screen is less like words on the screen as opposed to a televised thing. That's why we're all watching the YouTube clips of the gaffes because it's just more entertaining. Well, when you're looking for good news, you don't necessarily want mere entertainment. Let's do a bit of the grab bag.
Okay, because let me just do a recap really fast.
Okay.
And so you've given us 5 things. So there's a difference between reporting news and offering commentary on it. The second one was no one reports without bias, so that we do all have a little bit of bias, at least in some avenue.
And that's okay.
And some
It's a
more than
fact.
others. And then third was you need to know your own preferred home. Fourth, you need to admit the deficiencies in your home stance, taking a humble posture to your own view. And then fifth, you need to purposely listen to viewpoints that differ to really understand the other side, but also just to take that in and to be fair. And so really lastly, why don't you kind of walk us through a little bit of just like a grab bag of details and fun that is just helping us navigate through.
So let's go to Facebook or Instagram or wherever you're sort of just being gently, like, just hanging out there. And you're like, oh, this comes across your feed. Wow. Do I click on that? How do you know?
So
or how is that
clickbait.
helpful? So then clickbait, what is the difference? Ben, you're going to answer this between
I don't
clickbait
have
and
to-
the headline.
Oh man, I
Because
have
you're
to.
young, you know all this stuff.
Oh, because it's one of those things I think is harder to find, but you know that it's there. And really, I think it's when I'm trying to even think about this off the top of my I think it's this place where people are almost they're intentionally just trying to force you to click a link that is not actually honoring and representing a real view there.
Okay.
So it's intentionally misleading and often provocative and pushing you to assume something and and to really start a reaction. You're like, I got to see that.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
I think it's exactly right.
I think it's really just trying to trick you to go to their website to really click this link and to hear their news.
So it's baiting, but it's not really delivering exactly what they're saying.
It's sometimes what I do for my parent emails.
Okay, yes. Clickbait. So, and that is different than a headline, which is introducing you what the thing is about. And yes, you got to do it with a little catch. But a clickbait is where you're really trying to arouse a response to get me over there. And it may or may not even be really about that. I think it's bad. I just don't even go near it. I don't want to give them the satisfaction of knowing they got me.
Yeah, so-
don't go near clickbait.
So I think headlines more hopefully honoring and fact-based. Clickbait's more just response-based and just trying to get you to their side. Okay.
The other thing is, if you're going to post something or repost it, please check the source and check the date. There is no sense getting worked up from something from 2013. Like, it just not. And I see it so many times. Like, check the date on when this supposed breaking, discovery came out. And if we haven't heard anything about it since 2013, don't repost it. But also the source, like if it's Washington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, The Guardian, or something like that, those are reputable. You may or may not agree with everything they say, but they're reputable. If it's, Joe Schmo's news source in his backyard, like just don't even send that on. Don't.
So, and what we've learned from Men in Black is the tabloids are the greatest place to go to.
Tabloids have the best news. It's
An
so
old
true.
movie reference.
So anyway, yeah. Okay. So now we're almost landing the plane. 2 more things to say. This next one is going to be the most difficult for some of us to hear, but then we'll end well. One of the things that I think is a little bit of grab bag on news sources has to do with Donald Trump. I think he is the litmus test for a news source. And here's what I mean. Any news source that gives unqualified disdain or unqualified support, I don't read. Because he is neither Satan nor the Savior. He doesn't deserve unqualified support. He doesn't deserve unqualified disdain. If a news source will commend the things that are commendable and critique the things that ought to be critiqued, that helps me recognize that news source is really trying to get at, recognizing their own biases, they're trying to get at help for the community. If it's unqualified disdain, unqualified support, they're just trying to gin up their own base. So that's, to me, I think Donald Trump is the litmus test for how to navigate what a honorable news source is and a helpful news source. And that doesn't, you can be on whichever side you want, but I really think if someone's only disdaining, only supporting, it's not that helpful, because that just carries over into everything.
Yeah.
So
I think that's really helpful, because it's often hard to kind of see where these newspapers or these platforms are really coming from against so many different issues, because they can land in different places. And so having kind of just one person, one guy to look at and just as a litmus test is pretty helpful.
Well, and he's 100% polarizing. He's
Well,
100%
that's true.
polarizing.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Why he's the litmus test is because he elicits such strong reactions, and you don't necessarily want to learn from and receive information as a continual diet from someone who has a strong reaction to him either way. You've got to have a measured response. Here's what's critiquable. Here's what's commendable. And if someone's only one or the other, it's just they're probably not worth listening to. It's the hothead at work. That's what it is. That news source is talking about the hothead. Well, never mind. I'm just kidding. No. So here's the last thing, and this is where, now I can stop sweating because we said Donald Trump. Start your day, your thought day with the Lord. And I mean, how many times do I have to say this? Well, probably every week, because I need to hear it again, because I'm not immune to it. Start your thought day with the Lord. Open the wisdom of the Proverbs. Open the praise of the Psalms. Open the Gospels and hear again from Jesus, the good news. Open the letters and just open the Word. Let God speak to you. I'm telling you, the prayer He loves to answer is, Lord, meet me today. I prayed that this morning, and I sometimes forget to pray it, but this morning I'm in John 13, and I almost skipped it because we'd just been there at Holy Week, but I'm reading through John again, and he gave me stuff from John 13 about Jesus that I'd never seen before, and it's like, thank you, Lord. And then all the rest of the news, well, that's okay, but that's in its proper place. Anyway, ask the Lord to give you His thoughts. We do want to be careful, thoughtful Christians, engaging the world. I hope this has been helpful for you to engage the world. If it has, go ahead and share this on your Facebook. Go ahead and send it out on YouTube. But really, we want to help all of us who call on Christ to think carefully. And in this time and place, with news and with information coming at us and high stakes, we really want to be careful. And so I hope this has been helpful for you. It's been helpful for me, Ben. Thank you for
Absolutely
leading us. And so we'll see you back here, I guess, tomorrow or the next day.
Yeah.
We'll let you know. We'll text you. All right, we'll see you.